Hey book nerds, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nala, and today I'm going to be doing my part 2 of my 2023 anticipated releases. For this video in part 2, I'm going to be covering all my anticipated releases from June until the end of the year. I have a ton, heaps more to go through, okay? Like, I haven't counted all of these releases. I will do the count at the end of filming and I'll put the total amount in my thumbnails. This is a lot. We have a lot of ground to cover. So without further ado, let's just hop, skippity jump right to it. First up, we're gonna start with the month of June. All of my anticipated June releases, starting with The Chaperone by M. Hendricks. Like every young woman in New America, Stella knows the rules. Deflect attention, abstain from sin, navigate the world with care, give obedience, embrace purity, and respect your chaperone. Once Stella glimpses both real freedom and the dark truths behind New America, she has no choice but to fight back against the world she knows. She sets out on a dangerous journey across what was once the United States, risking everything. Okay, so I think this is YA. So this is a YA dystopian type story. I'm here for it. I have not read a dystopian in quite a while, so when I'm in the mood for this, I will definitely be picking this up. Next up, I have The Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. All right, so a brief synopsis of this one is: in a world long ago ravaged by war, the nations have sworn an armistice. This is a new word. Armistice. I don't know. Never to use weapons of mass destruction again. Instead, highly skilled warriors known as Griever Knights represent their nation's interests in brutal hand-to-hand combat. It says a book about warriors written by a master of the martial arts. Gimme. I want this book in my hot little hands right now. First off, I love weapons. If you don't know, I love weaponry. I love weaponry. I love it. We have underground combat rings. Oh my gosh, what is that movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme? Is it Bloodsport? That's what I'm thinking of when I see that automatically. When I'm in the mood for like warrior combat story, I gotta be in the mood for this, but it sounds fantastic. Next up, I have Green Wild by Pari Thompson. Okay, so this is a middle grade fantasy. It says, open the door to a spellbinding world where the wilderness is alive and a deep magic rises from the earth itself. Daisy must band together with a botanical genius, a boy who can talk with animals, and a cat with an attitude to uncover the truth about who she really is. Only then can she channel the power that will change her whole world and save the green wild itself. This sounds like such a cute palette cleanser. As y'all know, middle grade for me is like a breeze palette cleanser that I just like to jump into from time to time, but it has to have a premise that really hooks me in for me to jump into a middle grade. This has animal companions, which is one of my favorite tropes, and we're talking about magical fantasy place called the Green Wild, and I'm assuming there's like earth elemental magic in this. The herbs and the trees. I am the forest tribe 100%, so this sounds fantastic. Next up is Umbridge by Derek Bailey. Derek and I are on several Discords together, and he is one of my friends on Goodreads. He is an indie author, and he asked me if I would be interested in reading his books, and I said yes, of course. So I'm actually waiting to receive this copy, and I am excited to get to it. Here's part of the premise. Kayla knew that starting high school would be a big step in her life. What she didn't know is that she would discover that she has the ability to see startling visions of someone's impending doom. As more and more of the people around her find themselves in death's crosshairs, she must figure out how to master her gifts and act upon her visions. In the midst of it all, she discovers that her quaint New England hometown might have some dark secrets hiding beneath its wholesome exterior. Umbridge is told across 7 serialized short stories that make up a micro-series of Kayla's adventures. This can be enjoyed as a short novel or read one story at a time. So I have not read anything like that before. This is like a kind of like a high school fantasy superhero type story, type vibes that I'm getting. So I am interested how I will get on with this one. Next up, I have Islas Reach by Francisca Liliana. The world of Iona has forgotten the time when dragons ruled the skies and their Vidan riders controlled the wind. I have to stop right there. What? That sentence? That's like fantastic. Dragon riders controlling the wind? I'm sold. Immediately sold. Do I even need to continue on with this premise? No, I'm not even going to read the rest of this premise. That sounds fantastic. Gimme, 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 gimme now. Yes. Next up is The Wind Knows My Name by Isabel Allende. Right here. This powerful and moving novel weaves together past and present, tracing the ripple effects of war and immigration on one child in Europe in 1938 and another in the United States in 2019. We're following our main character in 1938 Vienna. Samuel Adler was 6 years old when his father disappeared. The night their family lost everything, his mother secured a spot for him on the last Kinder transport train out of Nazi-occupied Austria to the United Kingdom, which he boarded alone, carrying nothing but a change of clothes and his violin. Then it goes to Arizona in 2019, 8 decades later, and then we go into another character's perspective and follow her story. But they're aligned. We have a cross of time frames, and I'm assuming how these people are interlinked. So I'm really curious about this one. I like reading historical fiction. I have not read historical fiction in a while, and a lot of it tends to be World War II based. So definitely when I'm in the mood for that, I will pick this up. Next up, I have Something Close to Magic by Emma Mills. This is a YA fantasy. It's not all sugar and spice at Basil's Bakery, where 17-year-old R.L.E. is an overworked, unappreciated apprentice. Still, the job offers stability, which no nonsense she values highly, so she keeps her head down, doesn't dare to dream big, until a stranger walks in and hands her a set of seeking stones. What, pray tell, is that? That sounds very intriguing. Curious, in a country where seeking was old-fashioned even before magic went out of style, it's a rare skill, but she has it. And then she gets intertwined with this stranger. They're on a quest with magic portals. There is a troll in this story. A troll older than many trees and a few rocks. What? And Danger's Palace intrigue. Okay. You had me at troll and a few rocks. This sounds amazing. Yes. Next is Starlings by Amanda Linsmeyer. This one is a YA fantasy. I think it has gothic. It's like a YA dark gothic fantasy. It says Kit's father had always told her he had no family, but 4 months ago his sudden death revealed the truth. Now she has a grandmother she never knew she had, Agatha Starling, and an invitation to visit her father's hometown, Rosemont. And Rosemont is picture perfect. The famed eternal roses bloom year round. Downtown is straight out of the 1950s. The longer she's there, the stranger it all feels. And the Starling family is revered, but there's something off about how the Starling women seem to be at the center of all the town's important history. Okay. I love a good, like, small town thriller. So this is what hooked me in for this one. That is all of my releases for the month of June. Next up would be the releases for July. Next up is Escape to Florence by Kat Duvray. Duvray, I believe this is French. That's the last name. It would be another historical fiction, moving between the Second World War and the present, about 2 women decades apart whose fates converge in Florence, Italy. One is risking torture and death. She relays messages, supplies, and weapons to partisan groups in the Tuscan hills. She vanishes. Her name vanishes from the records. Her name and her story are overshadowed by the tragic death of her brother, until a young writer arrives in Tuscany, uncovering her long-buried secrets. And then it goes into that character's storyline and her narrative. And of course, this is like a dual timeline. People's, they're intertwined somehow. So again, historical fiction, yes. Next up would be The Paris Agent by Kelly Rimmer. Again, another historical fiction. In the aftermath of his war-ravaged past in 1970, we're following Noah. He is still haunted by memories of his time as a fearless British operative in France, but a critical head injury has left him with frustrating memory gaps and a burning question that plagues him. Who was the agent who saved his life during that tragic final mission? Determined to find answers, his daughter's involved at helping him find the answers. We're going into, she unravels the heroic exploits of the women and their connection to her father, unearthing a shocking story from those final days of the war. Next is Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This is a thriller. I'm on a thriller kick, so I kind of want to get my hands on all the good thrillers. A remote cabin in the snowy wilderness that will teach you to trust no one. There are 8 strangers, one is a killer, nowhere left to run. So this seems like a locked door mystery. When Krista joins a tour group heading deep into the snowy expanse of the Rocky Mountains, she's hopeful to put the ghosts of her past to rest. But when a bitterly cold snowstorm sweeps the region, the small group is forced to take shelter in an abandoned hunting cabin. Despite the uncomfortably claustrophobic quarters and the rapidly dropping temperature, she believes they'll be safe as they wait out the storm, and she couldn't be more wrong, people. Okay. Deep in the night, their tour guide goes missing. ... Only to be discovered the following morning. Dead. Very much so dead. This sounds terrifying, actually, reading the synopsis more. I'm not going to get into the rest of it, but it sounds like this could be a terrifying thriller. Yeah. When I'm in the mood for that, I'll be picking this up. Next is Sinners of Starlight City by Annika Scott. Again, this is kind of like a historical fiction, definitely historical setting for this one. This is about a woman determined to avenge the crimes against her family, set at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. This is kind of giving me like mafia vibes. I don't think it's the mafia, but it's giving me those vibes where she's avenging her family, mafia style. But the setting itself, 1933 Chicago. Okay, we're going to be in the Great Depression. The Chicago World's Fair, glittery city within a city. But every utopia has a seedy side, and that's Rosa's world. Mancuso is her last name. Is that Italian? Like Italian mafia style? As the mysterious Madame Mystique, she mixes magic, bringing customers to the home of the fair's carnival rides and spectacles. Italy. Yes, I was right. She has come from Mussolini's Italy to America, where she's plotting her revenge for the murders of her family. The perpetrator will soon arrive at the World's Fair via a celebrated Italian air fleet, and Rosa is determined to be prepared. I think this is more like a historical fiction drama. This could actually be a hit or miss for me, depending on how it's written. I wanted to include this because of the setting, being in Chicago 1930s World Fair type magical setting. In that way, I wanted to see how that plays out. So we will see about this one. It could be a yay or a nay. Next is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. This one seems like a thriller mystery. Sally Diamond cannot understand why what she did was so strange. She was only doing what her father told her to do, to put him out with the rubbish when he died. Okay. When messages start arriving from a stranger who knows far more about her past than she knows herself, Sally's life will be thrown into chaos once again. This sounds like chaos. I need to know what that chaos is about. Yes. Okay, so those are all of my July releases. Next, we're going to hop into August. Kicking it off with our August releases, we have The African Samurai by Craig Shreve. The title of this alone intrigued me. The African Samurai? I need to know that story. What is this about? Please tell me now. Set in late 16th century Africa, India, Portugal, and Japan, The African Samurai is a powerful historical novel based on the true story of Yasuki, Japan's first foreign-born samurai and the only samurai of African descent. I am so intrigued, especially based on a true story of someone. I knew nothing about this. This sounds like a solid choice. Next would be Whalefall by Daniel Kraus. First off, this cover, the whale looks cute. That's a cute looking whale to me. Like, look at his eye. His eye in proportion to like his face. He's just a cute whale. He's too cute. Whalefall is a scientifically accurate thriller about a scuba diver who's been swallowed by an 80-foot, 60-ton sperm whale and has only 1 hour to escape before his oxygen runs out. Yeah, I need this. This will be the first one I get to when this becomes available to me. Like, immediately. I get everything through the library. When this becomes available at the library, I'm immediately going to get this one. I'm really like anticipating this one for sure. Next is The Invisible Hour by Islas Hoffman. This is like a historical fiction, historical setting. It's about the enduring magic of books. One brilliant June day, when Mia can no longer see a way to survive, the power of words saves her. Scarlet Letter was written almost 200 years earlier, but it seems to tell the story of Mia's mother, Ivy, and their life inside the community, an oppressive cult in Western Massachusetts, where contact with the outside world is forbidden and books are considered evil. But how could this be? She must abandon the rules she was raised with at the community. As she does, she realizes that reading can transport you to other worlds or bring them to you, and that readers and writers affect one another in mysterious ways. She learns that time is more fluid than she can imagine, and that love is stronger than any chains that bind you. As a girl, Mia fell in love with a book. Now, as a young woman, she falls in love with a brilliant writer as she makes her way back in time. I don't know, that sentence, back in time, I don't know if it's going to be like a literal, if it's going to turn into some type of time loop situation, or if that is just like hypothetical, like, or theoretical. Do I even know what words mean anymore? You know which one I'm talking about, right? That just means like she's in love with this writer who's writing this book that she's escaping into, and she's going back in time like via his words. I don't know. It's intriguing. Sign me up. Next is House of Marion by J.L. This is a YA fantasy. It has assassins in it. There is a romance in this, so I think it's more romantic-y heavy. I'm not a big romance reader, but the other things in this story has intrigued me and kind of hooked me in, so we will see. Deadly magic flows through our main character's veins and the veins of her family. So this is like a family magic story. Someone discovers this hidden dark secret of her and her family, and I guess the assassins are sent to come after her. She reluctantly inducts into a debutante society of magical social elites called the Order that she never knew existed. If she can pass their 3 rites of membership, mastering their proper form of magic, she'll be able to secretly bury her forbidden magic forever. If caught, she will be killed. This is like dark academia as well, and that's what hooked me once, because now I'm like, it's coming back to me. The dark academia premise of this is what's hooking me into this one. Next is The Last One by Will Dean. When Kaz steps on board the exclusive cruise liner RMS Atlantica, it's the start of a vacation of a lifetime with her new love, Pete. On their first night, they explore the ship, dance, make friends, but when Kaz wakes the next morning, Pete is missing, and when she walks out into the corridor, all the cabin doors are open. To her horror, she soon realizes that the ship is completely empty. There's no passengers, no crew, nobody but her. The Atlantica is steaming into the mid-Atlantic, and Kaz is the only person on board. But that's just the beginning of this terrifying journey. Yes. Okay, this is a thriller. I am anticipating this one. I need to see how this story plays out 100%. Next is The Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. This is a psychological thriller horror-esque novel. In a lonely cottage overlooking the windswept Maine coast, Wilder Harlow begins the last book he will ever write. It is the story of his childhood summer companions and the killer that stalked the small New England town. of the body they found and the horror of that discovery echoing down the decades, and of Skye, Wilder's one-time best friend who stole his unfinished memoir and turned it into a lurid best-selling novel. But, as Wilder writes, the lines between memory and fiction blur. And that's the intriguing part for me. He fears he's losing his grip on reality when he finds notes hidden around the cottage written in Skye's signature green ink about one man's struggle to come to terms with the tears of his past. Okay, so yes, all this up here. Psychological and bendy. Yeah. Next is Good Bad Girl by the Alice Feeney. Now, we all know two of my favorite books of all time are by Alice Feeney, and they were her last two releases, Rock, Paper, Scissors, and Daisy Darker. The books before those two were awful, in my opinion. So because I loved her last two releases, I thought they were fantastic. They're two of my favorites for a reason. And this one, in the premise, it says it's in the same vein as Daisy Darker and Rock, Paper, Scissors. So if it's in the same vein of two of my favorite books that she has written, I'm definitely going to give this one a shot. This one, we are following an older, elderly woman. I have yet to read a story that our main character is elderly, so this will be a new one. 20 years after a baby is stolen from a stroller, a woman is murdered in a care home. Then two crimes are somehow linked, and a good bad girl may be the key to discovering the truth. Edith may have been tricked into a nursing home, but at 80 years young, she's planning her escape. Patience works there, cleaning messes and bonding with Edith, who is a kindred spirit. But Patience is lying to Edith about almost everything. Edith's own daughter won't speak to her, and someone new is about to knock on her daughter's door, and their intentions are not good. With every reason to distrust each other, the women must solve a mystery with 3 suspects, 2 murders, and 1 victim. If they do, they might just find out what happened to the baby who disappeared, the mother who lost her, and the connections that bind them. And it says, in the style of Daisy Darker and Rock, Paper, Scissors. It's a thriller in which nobody can be trusted and the twists come fast and furious. And that, if you don't know, if you have not read Alice Feeney's latest, or her last 2 releases that I just mentioned, the twists, like the queen of the twists and the bends, and you don't see any of it coming. It's fantastic. I need another one written like those last 2. If she can deliver again the way she delivered in Daisy Darker and Rock, Paper, Scissors, I will be so ecstatic because I need that excitement in my life. Those 2 books had me on the edge of my seat. I couldn't stop. I listened to them both on audiobook. I highly recommend the audiobooks for them as well. The excitement factor was off the charts. I was excited and thrilled the entire time. It's like it was the best reading experience, listening experience ever. It was fantastic. Go read those. But all I'm saying is that no pressure, but she better deliver, because I have hyped this one up so much. Yes, please. Next is The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I thought this was more of a companion to the Inheritance Games series, but it says the Inheritance Games number 4. So I don't know if this is book 4 in the series, or if you want to consider this a companion novel to that series. Book 1 in this Inheritance Games series was one of my favorite books. Me and my best friend did a buddy read of this one. Me and her buddy read almost everything together. Almost everything. We loved book 1 in this series. Book 1, again, excitement factor, mystery, top notch, top notch. But when you start off with a bang, it's hard to end with a bang. It's like hard to keep that momentum going. And after book 1, book 2 and 3 just kind of fizzled, okay? Book 3, we weren't happy with as collectively as a team. I was not happy with it at all. I didn't like it. And the 2 main brothers, really, there wasn't any character growth. They got on my nerves. This one is following those 2 main brothers. You might be asking, well, if they annoyed you and you didn't like it, why would you even consider reading this one? It's like a guilty pleasure, junk food type read. If this is not a pleasurable reading, listening experience, I'll DNF it. I'm just saying the curiosity factor in it is more like that. I kind of want to check it out. Drawn into twisted games on opposite sides of the globe, Grayson and Jameson, with the help of their other brothers and the girl who inherited their grandfather's fortune, must dig deep to decide who they want to be and what each of them will sacrifice to win. We're following, I guess, Grayson and Jameson, 2 point of views. They're both involved in some suspicious things. Gambling, underground gambling club. There's some he gets into trouble, and I think they all kind of have to band together and kind of save him out of this game that he got himself into, because, you know, this is the inheritance games, right? That is what's intriguing me about this one, is because I kind of want to see what this game is. I want to see the riddles and the puzzles. Will she execute this? I kind of want to see. That's why this is on my radar. That wraps it up for the August releases. Now we're going to jump right into September. Upon a Frosted Star by M.A. Kuzniar. When the snow falls, she will be free. The invitations always arrive the same way, without warning, appearing around the city on the first snowfall of the year, simply inscribed with "Tonight." When struggling artist Forster finds an invitation, he's bewitched by the magic of the evening, swept up in the glamour of this notorious annual party, and intrigued as to who is behind them. Determined to find out more about the mysterious host, he discovers an abandoned manor house silent with secrets and a cursed woman who is desperate to be free. Oh, okay. I think this is the same author who wrote Midnight in Everwood. I have not read Midnight in Everwood yet, but that is on my TBR that I want to get to within the next few months. I want to jump into this one right away. Next is Midnight at the Houdini by Delilah S. Dawson. A girl discovers a surreal hotel where no one ever leaves. When the clock strikes midnight, she'll be trapped there forever unless she's able to break free from magic that in turn breaks all her rules. The night is perfect and glorious and sparkling, too beautiful to be real, like magic. It's a magical hotel. I don't need to know more about that premise. It's intriguing alone just because it's a magical hotel. I read one other book about a magical hotel called Hotel Magnifique. That started off great and it ended horribly for me. So I kind of need a redemption read for a magical hotel premise, and I'm really hoping that this one delivers. Next is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall. Now this I think is more magical realism. It kind of is giving me the same vibes to another book that I read that I really enjoyed called The Shadow Garden. With the news of their grandmother's impending death, Sadie's estranged twin brother Seth returns to town, bringing with him deeply buried family secrets that threaten to tear Sadie's world apart. The grandmother has been the backbone of the family for generations, and with her death, Sadie isn't sure she'll have the strength to keep the family and her magic to get together. So it's kind of very much so actually vague about what this magic is. Yeah, very curious about it. That wraps up September. Now let's hop right into our October releases. Next would be The Rosewood Hunt by Mackenzie Reed. Lily Rosewood dreams of taking over her family's company one day. Her grandmother, Rosewood Inc.'s current chair, has always encouraged her, and Lily can't wait for Graham to teach her everything she needs to know to run the business. But then Graham suddenly dies, and Lily's world is upended. When it's revealed that Graham's $250 million fortune is missing, Lily can't fathom what her future will now hold. But even in death, Graham has a few tricks up her couture sleeve. A last letter from her with cryptic clues sends Lily and 3 other teens on a treasure hunt that could change their lives forever if they can survive it. And if they pull it off, they may be rewarded with more than just money. But they're not the only ones hunting for Graham's treasure, and soon the hunt becomes more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. So this sounds like a YA, but we're on a treasure hunt, kind of like a thrilling treasure hunt, inheritance type thing. I'm really curious about it. Next is The Unmaking of June Pharaoh by Adrienne Young. Now, if you don't know, Adrienne Young is one of my favorite authors. So when I saw that she was coming out with another new story, whatever, I will just immediately read anything she writes at this point. I was so excited. Here's the premise of this one. In the small mountain town of Jasper, North Carolina, June Pharaoh is waiting for fate to find her. The Pharaoh women are known for their thriving flower farm and the mysterious curse that has plagued their family line. The whole town remembers the madness that led to Susanna Pharaoh's disappearance, leaving June to be raised by her grandmother and haunted by rumors. There are clues regarding her mother's decades-old disappearance. So I'm assuming this is a journey uncovering clues, kind of like a thriller mystery. I'm sure there's romance involved, but it's, you know, I will do it. Yes, this sounds fantastic. Count me in. Next would be Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. In the vibrant city-state of Castleine, the richest of nobles and the most debauched of criminals have one thing in common: the constant search for wealth, power, and the next thrill. Kel is an orphan stolen from the life he knew to become the sword catcher, the body double of a royal heir, Prince Connor Aurelian. He has been raised alongside the prince, trained in every aspect of combat and statecraft. He and Connor are closest brothers, but Kel knows he has one destiny: to die for him. No other future is possible. And then we go into another character storyline about possessing magical abilities, failed assassination attempts. Yeah. That covers October releases. Now let's hop right into November. What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. It says the mummy meets death on the Nile in this immersive historical fantasy set in Egypt, with adventure, a rivals to lovers romance, and a dangerous race. Okay, I'm intrigued because Death on the Nile is, in my opinion, it's really up there on one of the best Agatha Christie's novels. And then you have the mummy mixed in with that, like Egypt, adventure, riddle me intrigued. Next would be Vengeance of the Pirate Queen by Trisha Levenseller. Again, Trisha Levenseller is one of my favorite authors. I'll read anything she writes. This is the third book in the Daughter of the Pirate King series. I don't want to spoil book 1 or book 2, but we're following our main character in this one's going to be an assassin who's working for our pirate queen, and she's given a task and a target. I mean, say no more. Yes, I need more Alosa in my life. She's one of the best characters of all time. 100%. Next would be Sanctuary of the Shadow by Aurora Asher. This is the elemental magic of Avatar: The Last Airbender meets the atmosphere of the Sandman in this intense and darkly imaginative fantasy debut. There isn't a premise on Goodreads for this yet. I'm pretty sure that this is supposed to come out in November. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender, and like it's supposed to be more of a dark fantasy. I'm very intrigued by this one. Okay, that covers everything in November. I do have a couple honorable mentions that I missed in part 1. I came across them after I made the part 1 video, so I'm going to mention them now. There's 2 honorable mentions. First up is going to be Once There Was by Kiyash Monsef. It says this is a novel about an Iranian American girl who discovers that her father was secretly a veterinarian to mythical creatures, and that she must take up his mantle despite the many dangers. Being a vet to mythical creatures, having a menagerie of mythical creatures. Yes, please. I need to see what this one is about. And the second honorable mention would be The Book of Eve by Meg Clothier. Now really, this one is kind of like a book about books. There is a book that holds power. Someone is after this book. Our main character is like guarding it. Our main character, Beatrice, is a convent librarian. She longs for knowledge of the outside world, a world ruled by men in which women can play no part. Okay, so already it's that kind of world where men have all the power. One carnival night, it seems her prayers are answered. 2 women badly injured and desperate for help are abandoned at the convent's gate. Moments from death, one of them presses something into Beatrice's hands, a book whose pages have a dangerous life of their own. But the men of the city, bent on the book's destruction, are closing in. Beatrice must do all she can to protect it, no matter what the cost. And then looking down in the reviews, something caught my eye. One of the reviewers said, this is based upon the mysterious Voynich manuscript, which has both fascinated and baffled scholars for centuries. Dark and gorgeously atmospheric, more feminist tale. I don't know what that manuscript is. I have never heard of it before. I don't know the history or story behind it. So I'm definitely going to look into that because I'm very curious. See how this one plays out. This is my future editing self, here to tell you I couldn't resist. I could not help myself. I am adding more to this list. I'm adding 5 more. I literally just came across 5 more releases. I need them in my life. 4 out of the 5 are fantasy. 1 is historical fiction. Historical fiction is first up, A Girl Called Samson by Amy Harmon. This one we are following our main character, a young girl, in the backdrop of the American Revolution. This will be a first for me. I don't recall ever reading a backdrop in the American Revolution before and following her story, and I'm assuming she's going to have to be involved in the war. Premise is so in-depth you can look it up on Goodreads to actually get the full thing, but that's the gist of it. Next up is Flight of 1,000 Embers by P.N. Vang. This is classified as new adult fantasy, and this is an indie author, I believe. Multiple point of views. I believe we're going to be in the perspectives of possibly 4 characters for this one. This is the first book in a saga as well. And let's just take a moment to appreciate this cover. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I love it. So when I paint, I love painting particularly on black canvases because when you paint on a black canvas, the colors become more in depth and more detailed, and it evokes emotion on a different plane than a white canvas does. And that is what I'm getting when I look at this cover. I can feel it. I can just feel this cover. I was sold immediately. It's like a magic warrior woman with a blade. I'm in. Next is Frost and Shadows, War of Miracles by Jessie Valet. 17-year-old Emma has been on the run her whole life. Born gifted with a powerful connection to winter, she has dedicated her life to avoiding the Institute, the worldwide organization that oversees all who are born blessed with powers. That little bit gives me enough of an idea that I'm really ready to jump right into this one. And I believe this has found family trope in it as well. Next is going to be The Necessity of Rain by Sarah Korn. Now, I do plan on reading my first Sarah Korn book of Honey and Wildfires for the readathon coming up in July. And I have heard that her writing will hit you in the heart. It will make you emotionally distressed. It'll make you cry. Even for those that don't have a heart, if you think you're heartless, I dare you to read one of her books. I have heard they're just so emotionally, thematically rich. This one, I do recommend going on Goodreads, reading the premise of this, and reading the review by Esme Rosalind. She wrote a fantastic, amazing review for this book. It's such a worthy review. Please go check it out. It's amazing. She made this book sound even more amazing, and I cannot wait to get this book in my hands now. And the last one is going to be Drift by one of my favorite authors, Adrienne Young. Now, I just found out about this. So imagine, to my surprise and my delight, because I had no idea that this was happening. This is apparently going to be kind of another companion novel, like Saint was for the Fable series, following the backstory of Willa and another character named Coy.
I loved Willa. Willa was one of the best characters from that series. So I am really excited to find out what happens with her. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to read the premise again. Stand by. Okay, I was wrong. This is not a backstory. This is kind of like following up on her story after Namesake. So we are continuing her story. This is a novella expected to come out in September. So this is supposed to be a September release, a short novella of what becomes of Willa. So I'm excited.
All right, y'all. That was a lot. We have covered a lot. Part 1 and part 2 officially done. These are all of my anticipated releases coming out this year. Please let me know down in the comments below if any of these that I have mentioned is on your anticipated release TBR. Is there any that I haven't mentioned that you think that I will enjoy and I need to add to my anticipated release TBR list? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching this video today. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can be notified every single time that I upload a new video. And as always, happy reading, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.